have a creek down there and then railroad track off to your right. A few more exits and then we'll be heading on up.
You can hear that Super C diesel.
Yeah, you can actually already hear us starting to climb up, but he's still in fifth gear, so.
Yeah, not having much trouble at this point.
There's actually something cool to check out here on the side of the road. We're heading southbound on I-25. If you look out the window, you can see the remnants of an old Catholic church. All that's left is that front face of the church. There used to be a mining town over here. This was a popular mining area. They still actually did a lot of mining for coal. My great-grandfathers were both coal miners down here in this part of town, in kind of Cokedale and Walsenburg areas. Interesting side note. Okay, and now we're definitely starting to climb.
This is mile marker 3.
Mile marker 3.
We're in fourth gear. We got plenty of power at this level. RPMs are about 25. This is good, comfortable. Here's Raton Pass, next 3 miles.
Okay.
This is technically the Continental Divide, I believe, where you're kind of on the southern end of it. Where, of course, everything on this side goes west and everything on the other side goes east. A lot of bear up in here, black bear.
Yeah.
We've had a few sketchy times going through this pass in the winter months, and what a lot of folks probably don't know is that, you know, winter in Colorado and New Mexico area does have a tendency to hang over into the April and May, early May months. And it's not uncommon to get a massive blizzard end of April, beginning of May, especially in this area. And they'll close the pass on you. We've been stuck in Las Vegas, Nevada, or Las Vegas, New Mexico, and had to stay the night. So now we're starting to ascend. You'll start to hear the engine, a little bit of stalling. It's starting to lose some power there. See the speedometer. So really can't get much more power than this. So you can see it just dropped into third there. We're still losing power, but we're still hovering around 40 miles an hour at this grade. Which of course the speed limit is 55, but we're still hovering above 40, and now we're starting to gain some power again. Very comfortable at third. This to me is a real comfortable pass ascent. You don't want to be, working your engine too hard, you'll overheat. Today's a cool day, but some of these passes we've been on, especially out in Utah, your engine will get hot quick working this hard like this. So you want to, there's a sweet spot between working it too hard and getting what you need to get done, which is, 40 is comfortable for me. Don't really like to be down in the, upper 20s. That's a little slow for me on a pass. You got trucks whizzing by you. But, that Jeep's going by me, not too fast, too much faster than me.
And we have construction.
Always construction. And nice and comfortable. Grade's starting to go up a little bit more, starting to lose a little bit. You can just hear the difference there. When folks talk about how they like to have the engine in the back, and I just love having the engine up front because I can hear what's going on. And really, be at one with my engine. Is it loud at the moment? Yeah, it's loud. You can hear it's loud. I don't quite know what to say about that. I mean, if you're driving a big rig, it's gonna be louder.
These port of entries and this whole stop here for weight, you don't have to do that when you are an RV. That's for the commercial vehicles. And trust me, if you just say, oh, I just want to get a weight on my RV, they don't want you to stop there. They're annoyed by that. They need to just be weighing the commercial vehicles. So I think that was something we weren't sure about. Do we need to stop at these at all because of our weight? And no, the answer is no, you don't need to.
Now here's where folks get into trouble. So we've made it through the pass. This is the Raton port of entry. As we're making it through the pass here, you get excited because you're thinking, okay, well, I got my power back and I'm ready to go. And this is where folks get into trouble, though, because what you really want to do is you want your engine to not go too fast. If you lose control, this is where you're going to burn out your brakes. It's never going to be up on the upper part. That's where you're going to burn out your engine. But where you're going to burn out your brakes is on the lower portion here. And what you want to do is you want to have, we're in 5th right now. I really want to be closer to 4th. I'm at a comfortable 55 to 60. It's a pretty rough road. I'm starting to feel a little bit out of control at 60 plus there. So I'm going to just pump my brakes. Not going to ride the brakes. I'm going to pump the brakes. That's going to give the engine an opportunity to catch up and slow me down. But if you're riding your brakes all the way down, man, you'll burn out your brakes real quick, and you'll start to smell them before you burn them out. And effectively, what happens? Why do folks lose their brakes? People ask this question all the time, but it's not that you burned out your pads, so to speak. It's that you've overheated your rotors to the point where they're no longer functional, and you can't brake. And that's where you get your runaway truck phenomenon, where you're effectively mechanically unable to brake. You may still have pressure in your brake system. That's another problem. We'll talk about that. That can happen. We were coming down through the Teton Pass, and the Teton Pass is extremely steep. And this was in the first year that we had the rig. In fact, it was one of our first trips with this particular rig. And as we're coming down the pass, I'm overusing my brakes because I can't get the engine to a point where it's really engine braking for me, so to speak. As much downshifting as I can do, I still am going to have to pump these brakes pretty frequently. And you'll see here, this is the pressure. I have air brakes here, and I'm burning through the pressure, and it's getting down to red, high red there. And so what you have to do in that situation is pull over and let your brakes recharge. Let yourself get some more pressure back in your brakes. So that's one problem, is you can lose pressure in your braking system if you have air brakes. The second thing is, I suppose you could burn through your pads if you had no pads. Hopefully that's something you're taking care of with your maintenance, and it's unlikely to happen. The third thing is you could overheat your rotors and distort the rotors to the point where they're ineffective and mechanically you're unable to brake. And and then the other thing, I suppose, is you could have some engine problem that would cause you not to be able to engine down brake. Now there are different types of Jayco brakes and exhaust brakes. We have an exhaust brake on this rig. The way that works is it essentially chokes the air intake, so that way you're reducing the air to the engine. And when you do that, if you want to get a fire started, you blow on it. If you want to choke a fire, you reduce the air. You put a covering over it to reduce the air to the fire, the oxygen. So as you're reducing your throughput, in this case in the exhaust system, you're reducing the throughput of the oxygen coming into the system because you're reducing the output, and that effectively causes your engine to stall or brake. And that happens when you lay off your accelerator. So in this particular 2019, I have my foot off the accelerator right now. My exhaust brake is on. If you were behind me, you'd see brake lights. Now, I'm not engaging the brake. That's different. That's where you're starting to press, you're using your air brake system to press your pads against your rotors. But you're utilizing your exhaust brake first to allow yourself to brake without necessarily using your rotors and pads. And you should always try to do that first, in order to reduce the amount of wear and tear and use and heat on your rotors. So that's it. So the key with mountain passes, honestly, in my opinion, is be patient on the way up. Accept that you're not going to be going 55, 60 miles an hour. It's okay. You're going to have people going by you. It's okay. If you are dropping a lot below what the speed limit is for the area, so let's say you're dropping like 40 miles an hour or less, you're in the 30s and the speed limit set at 55 or 60, you need to be putting on your hazards to let people know, because when there's a differential at 15, 20 miles per hour, you're really starting to get into dangerous territory for folks coming up on you, especially if you're winding in turns. Now, there are some laws, and you'll have to look at your local laws in terms of when you need to put on your hazards. Some will give you a hard number on a mountain pass as to when you need to turn that on, and you need to follow that, obviously. But just as a matter of safety, it makes sense to me to turn them on if you're starting to get into that 10, 15 mile per hour plus marker, where you're starting to get a big differential between you and the guy coming up behind you. In which case, then you really want to let them know you're traveling at slower speeds.
And I think at this point we are through the pass.
We're through the pass, and I'll let the engine go up to 5 here. We need the power probably of 5. Really, 6 on this rig is where you're going to get your overdrive. That's where you want you're on a flat area. If you're going up and down the mountains, I usually am riding in the 4 to 5 on my transmission. That gives me more power. Do not be in overdrive when you're entering a pass at 6. That's just, you're not going to have any power at all. 6 is really, you're driving down the road and you're worried about fuel efficiency because you're going in flat country. As we kind of get a lay of the land here as we've come through here, we may be able to switch into 6 here because this is pretty flat. And I'm going to do that.
Well, and I need to check because we're going to have a turn here somewhere, so okay. I need to put back maps. Okay, hopefully this was helpful.